Alrighty, welcome in. Okay, we got a fun little jar. I'm gonna do a little bit of carving today. We're quite busy, so if you saw our logo over the weekend, we got a lot going on in the back, so we're gonna make today a little bit shorter. This is one of the jars I've been working on with this cool Mayco Engobe on the outside. This is actually black. It will fire black. It's just dry right now, and so this piece, it's like a hard leather hard. I'd actually call this kind of one of my favorite terms. I think it came from Clayshare, refrigerated chocolate. That's kind of like that nice carving uh, sort of dryness where you're gonna shave off layers. You're not, it's not bone dry. It's not quite leather hard. You're right there in the middle. It's a perfect perfect state. And so this had the black engobe trimmed, put it on. It's all dry now. It's ready to go. So I'm going to take the lid off. And you've seen, I kind of just like rotate it a little bit, and that it kind of wears down any little bumps or spots that could become an issue. It just kind of helps make a really nice fit. And so this is the base piece. I'm going to use some of the fine point tools today, maybe some sgraffito. Again, just something simple. And I'm really just going to go for it. I saw a couple designs that I liked, some other pieces, so I will try to make that. And I'm just going to start by making some straight little bits like this. So this is the FP7. It's nice because it's got a little bit of a round top to it. So you kind of use that to make rounded ends. Like the end of these little things, I wanted to make sure they stay round. And what's nice about the Engobe is that I think it carves a little bit better as opposed to underglaze. It just seems to sort of behave more like the clay. We actually had a question about you do need to put clear glaze over this so they don't fire glossy. It's just kind of like a clay. So you got, if you want it to be all sealed and ready to go, you do have to put a clear. And that's what I will do on these. And then we've made it back around. Just like that. So, oh, James, for food safe. So I think that's just because if you get anything that's not fully sealed and glazed, you can get food that's going to seep in there in liquid. So make sure to put a clear on there. So here we have these nice even spacings going around. And I'm going to just round out the bottom of each one. So I'm just going to carve this little strip that I'm working on right now. And then I'll do the lid later, but you'll get to see the finished thing fired in a couple weeks. And the other reason I like the FP7 is for any kind of thing like this where you're sort of like clearing away sections, that little bit of an arc blade, it doesn't leave as many lines on the corners or on the side. So you can get just a little bit of a smoother finish for putting taking off edges or taking corners down like this. Like that. I'm just gonna dump this off. Okay, and then let's do some for fun. I'll try the L2 here. So the L2 has this like larger sort of tapered end. It also has this tiny little ball end. So I'm going to use that ball end and sort of outline a little bit of a design here. So the Sgraffito tools are a little bit different. I'm actually not as used to them because you can push and pull and go any direction. So yeah, this piece is almost bone dry. So I mentioned in the beginning, it's kind of like this perfect refrigerated chocolate texture where it's almost bone dry, but you're not quite there yet. So you can scrape stuff away, you can carve really well. I think it's perfect for Sgraffito. And I don't really know where I'm going with this. We'll try a couple different things. And so what's definitely a lot different with the Sgraffito is you actually have to scrape away all these layers. So depending on the thickness of your engobe or whatever you're putting on, you kind of have to work your way down. You can definitely get fine lines, but it's just a little bit different that you have to adjust for. And it really depends on kind of what you're doing. If you like sort of drawing and making outlines, these Sgraffito tools, the stylus tools, are going to work very well because you can literally draw on there. And we're just sort of making some different shapes. There we go. So I think we'll kind of continue with this design here. Just do a couple little and then even though there's a little bit of variation in spacing, you can kind of adjust as you go. The one thing to watch out for is as this does start to dry, when you're scraping, you get these little chip marks. I'm gonna try another tool. Let's see what the FP4, how that does. So this is just gonna behave a little bit different. So you can kind of see the difference there. The FP4 is going to go just a little bit deeper. And so instead of scraping away, this looks a little bit rough. So I think I'm going to keep going with the FP4. And that's just based on kind of the state of this clay and the kind of the shape that I'm trying to do. back here at the beginning where I tried something random, but we can usually make that work, sort of work it in. And dust all that off. So now I have a bunch of lines, and then we can start kind of clearing out the background of these. And still using FP4. The 0 is going to be a little bit smaller, so I'll do something with that a little later. But this one's working fine for kind of just getting rid of all these. Getting in here, it leaves a plenty fine line. Couple left. Okay, then we'll switch to, I'm going to try the FP2 on this because whenever you're kind of getting into there's some interesting little shapes, little triangles that you have to kind of scrape out. And so I usually like to use the 2 because you can get into that corner. But then on the side like this, you actually have a pretty wide like carving surface. But then when you need to get into the corner, you can. So any of these little triangle shaped corners, I can just sort of scrape this out on. Just like that. So yeah, what you can tell is like, rather than using that point, I'm just turning slightly on the side and using actually like the flat edge of that triangle. So that's how you can kind of get into corners when you need them and then get a little bit wider. And since all of these triangles are sort of facing the same way, I just do them all in one go. Okay, one left. All right, so now that's all kind of carved away. You can see now all the little like leaf edges are open on top. Oh, sorry, I might have drifted a little low. Let me move up. Oh wait, we got it. I just gotta move this up. I just drift down, so I'll hold it up here. We're good. Okay, so now that all those are done, come in and do the same thing here. And kind of similar where in order to get into all these little corners, I'm just using like the triangle shape and the side of the tool at the same time. All right, so that's all kind of cleared out. Not the greatest shapes, but sometimes what'll help is just adding a few little details here and there. So for that, I'll do the FP0. This is that super, super fine one. So it's a very small little hook tip. You can probably barely see it there. Um, but it works well on just making any kind of real fine little lines. So I'm just going to come back through, and anywhere that kind of add some little designs in here. Maybe get a little bit of a leaf shape. We'll see. Sometimes when I end up with something that's just kind of random like this, I'll just keep going, hoping that it'll turn into something. We'll leave this one for later. I'll do some other little lines. And so if anything, this is kind of showing just the different line widths, how to kind of clear some space in between. So if you have a background that you're trying to get rid of, some of those, like the FP2 works really well for that. So sometimes just getting some extra little things in there helps. All right, I think I'm gonna leave her there. It's time to get off the bus before we miss our stop completely. Um, but sometimes what will help is just sort of adding. I'm going to do something similar on the top here, and you'll see you'll have a little bit of a matching texture. So that will turn into a little jar. We'll see if it turns out. But I'm going to carve that kind of behind the scenes, and then we'll get it glazed and do a kiln opening in a couple weeks. But there you go. So just for reference, some of the tools that were used here, some good ones. So FP7, that first one, that little arc shape on there. FP4 and L2. So I use these both on the outline. The L2, you're going to kind of scrape a little bit more versus the FP4 is going to carve. However, the stylus, you can draw a little bit more freehand. So, you know, similar result, but one's gonna again carve through, and depending on the dryness of your piece, the sgraffito might sort of crack some of the edges. It all kind of depends the dryness, the style, and then the FP2, great for getting in those little corners, clearing out background, and then the FP0, super fine finish lines. Roughly, the FP0 is about half the width of the 4, just kind of for reference. So when you're really delicate with it, you can end up with two very fine lines, but similar. So there you go. Thanks for joining, watching a little bit of that, and we'll see you next time.